Welcome back to Life Enrichment with Hank Ballinger. Today we're going to talk about buying one property. That's all. Just one. Probably won't make you a billionaire or one of the richest people in the world, but it will get you started. So that's very important. So before we get into that, again, if you will, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, tell others about it that you know. Our goal is to get other people to build wealth, to get them out of the day-to-day rat race, to help them to get control of their lives. And you can help us in that endeavor by telling others to watch the channel. We would greatly appreciate it. Thank you. Now, as we think about buying real estate, I realize this. Many people have a fear. It scares them to death to think about, I've got to buy a piece of real estate, whether it's a single family home that we're going to rent out, or if it's a multifamily apartment complex, or whatever. Oh no, it's just the idea of having something. And here's the first thing that goes through their mind. What if? What if a toilet breaks? What if a tenant doesn't pay? What if the economy tanks? What if? And that what if keeps them out of building wealth. And they look around and see so many other people building wealth through real estate. Now, why real estate? Why do I keep mentioning real estate? It's this reason. Real estate is the best income producing asset of all time since Adam and Eve. Real estate has been and will always be the best asset class of all time. There is nothing else even close. And maybe you play the stock markets. Maybe you dabble in penny stocks or day trading. That's trading. That's really not investing. But there is a difference. I don't think I'm really going to get into it on this channel because that's not really the goal of this channel. But it's not the asset class. Maybe you like getting into crypto. That can build some wealth, but it will never be as good as real estate. A fellow by the name of Aristotle Onassis, he said this: 95, 98% of the people have always and will always build their wealth or maintain their wealth in real estate. It is the best asset class. So if you want to have something that gives you a great value, get real estate. It is a great tangible value. It has a lot of value, and everybody accepts that value. Banks, stock market. Now you say, how does the stock market accept value in real estate? There's something in the stock market called mortgage-backed securities. Massive amounts of them. Stock market loves them. Mortgage-backed securities, look them up. The derivatives market, which is a massive market, puts a lot of value in mortgage-backed securities. Everybody puts value in mortgage-backed securities, banks, individuals. So real estate is a great asset class. So you can buy real estate. Now, how would you get started? I'm not saying run out and buy a 100-unit apartment complex or a $100 million property, but you might be able to go out and buy one house or maybe a duplex. Now, a lot of times right now in Richmond, a lot of people are really overpaying for duplexes, but a lot of times you can find these houses that are very doable to buy them and rent them and make money. Now, how do you make money? How do you cash flow? You take all of your income per month, take away your expenses, all of your expenses, don't cut it short. You know, you'll have your debt service to the bank, your taxes, your insurance, your garbage, your maintenance, and any utilities you may pay. Once you take all that away, if you're left with anything, that's called cash flow. Take your expenses minus your expenses. Whatever you're left with, that's your cash flow. If you're going to buy a piece of property and it's going to cash flow, it's a good buy. If you're not going to cash flow, I would encourage not to buy it, but I don't give financial advice. I give financial information. That's something you have to look at. So some people literally do buy real estate and it doesn't cash flow. And they still look at that as a good investment, better than, they say, putting their money in the bank. And that's between them and the real estate. They buy it. You could buy a duplex, but again, remember, duplexes right now, they're high. Not saying that's good or bad, and if someone wants to pay a little high for a duplex and put a lot down on it, it may still cash flow because they put a lot down. Instead of a 10 or 15, 20% down payment, they may put 30, 40, or maybe even 50% down, maybe more. It will cash flow, but you're putting a lot down. Your ROI, your return on that investment, isn't near as good because you're really paying too much for it. But still, there are a lot of duplexes out there that's still worth the buy. So buy a duplex. Now, how could you buy this single family home or this duplex? You could use equity that you have in your home. If your home is valued at $100,000 and you only owe $30,000, well, you have $70,000 worth of equity. But remember, the bank generally will only go up to 80% LTV, meaning they will only go 80% of the value. So if it's valued at $100,000, they will loan you up to 80, but if you have 30, the difference between 30 and 80, $50,000 of usable equity in your home, you could take that $50,000 and buy a rental property, or maybe 2 or 3, whatever works for you. There's ways to get creative and buy a whole bunch of pieces of property for $50,000. Sounds crazy, but these single family homes, you can sometimes pick them up pretty cheap. Use cash. Use your savings. And I'm not saying you should do this. Again, don't give financial advice. I give information. So you could use your savings. You could borrow money from a friend or relative. Just realize that sometimes when you borrow money from a friend or relative, it can hurt the friendship or the relative. When you sit down at Thanksgiving to eat turkey with that person, if you didn't pay them back or something went a little south and they felt like they were cheated, it can cause some hard feelings. So just make sure that this is going to work out with both parties. Now, if you like the first property that you ever buy and it leaves a good taste in your mouth, it's very possible you may want to buy more. And if it works out good, you may keep buying more. You may end up with many properties. Great. But that is not the story with every single person. Sometimes I've heard a lot of stories that the first property somebody buys, it just goes south. You know, the water line breaks, they have tenants that tear the place up, the tenants don't pay, they've got to put the water heater in, and they got to put an HVAC system in, then the roof leaks. It's one thing after another, and they get in, and not long after, they're selling, they're out, they're done. That happens, okay? Nothing you can do about that. But generally speaking, even if that does happen, if you get in and you don't like the first property you buy, generally, not always, you can sell that property and still have capital gains. Let's say you paid $100,000 for that first property, and now you get ready to sell it after a year. You're just tired, you're fed up with it, whatever, and you sell it for $120,000. You made $20,000. Now, we're not adjusting for inflation. That's nominally. You made $20,000. That's still pretty good. Now, you've also learned some things. You've learned maybe getting into real estate is not for you. And that's fine. That's a valuable lesson. You made $20,000 and you realize real estate's not for you. You're out of it. Maybe you put that $20,000 to something else. But the point is, if you want to build wealth, real estate has always been the best asset class of all time. That's why I encourage people to get into real estate. A very powerful, very good way to get into building wealth. Not for everybody. I have personally known and worked with people, and they've gotten into real estate, and after a year or so, 3, 4, they've gotten out. And that's fine. They just realize that's not for me. Nothing wrong with that. If it's not for you, you can't get out. But generally, you will make a capital gains, or you will have a gains on that property. So it's not a complete loss. Now, after you buy your first property, you will have broken the ice. Now, here's an interesting thing. I used to do one-on-one lessons, and when I would get with somebody, they would say, hey, I want to learn to build wealth, and I would literally have a 6-week course, And I would teach them. I generally charge $500 for individual, $750 for person. And I would take them through a series, 6 lessons, and I would teach them how to buy real estate. I have had some people, and at the end of that course, I would usually say, okay, now how many pieces of real estate do you want to buy your first year? Now, a lot of them say, well, maybe 1 house, maybe 2, and they'd think 2 is stretching it. A lot of those people, the first year, they'll buy 4 or 5. One guy said, I think maybe in my lifetime, I want to hit maybe 10 houses or something, and that's it. He now has like 70-something units. One guy, he said, maybe 3 or 4 or 5, 10 maybe at the most in time. He's got over 100. Anybody can do this. It's very possible. But you buy that first one, you've broken the ice, and now you have a lot of experience that's going to help you to buy more and more in the future. Very important that you buy that first one. If you want to get into real estate, if I can do it, anybody can do it. Now, other strategies to buy real estate. Now, you don't always have to use your money. Some people call it opium or OPM, other people's money. That's a good way to buy real estate, using somebody else's money rather than yours. You can do an owner finance, meaning you may go and ask this guy how much he wants for this house, and he may say, I want $100,000 for this house. And you say, okay, would you do a 10% owner finance? And he may say, yeah, I'll do that. Now, remember, you were going to do an 80-20 split with the bank. The bank put up $80,000, you were going to have to put down 20. But what about if you don't only have 10? You don't have the other 10. You go to that seller and you say, listen, would you do a 10% owner finance? He says, yeah. Well, now you go to the bank and you say, okay, he's going to do a 10% owner finance. The bank's going to put up 80. And now you only have to come out of pocket with 10,000, and you get that $100,000 house. Now, let me go over some really crazy stuff with you, okay? Real quick here. Let's say the bank says we'll do 85%. They do 85, meaning they give him on the day of closing, they give him $85,000. He does a 10% owner finance, meaning you set up payments with him after you close with the bank. You pay him each month just like you would the bank on the $10,000. Maybe he wants 5% interest over 10 years, whatever. You amortize it just like you would the bank. You're making payments to him and the bank. But let's say the bank gives 85%. He does a 10%. That means you only got to come out of pocket with 5%, $5,000. But let's say you don't have $5,000. You go to Aunt May. I don't know why I always use Aunt May, but you go to Aunt May and you say, Aunt May, would you let me borrow $5,000? And she does, and you pay her back. Now you have 0% out of pocket. Now you have 3 people you got to pay every month. You got to pay the bank on the $85,000. You got to pay the owner on $10,000, and you got to pay Aunt May back on the $5,000. Here's the interesting thing about that. You have 0 out of pocket, but it is your name still that goes on that piece of paper as the owner. The bank is not the owner, and they put up 85%. The seller that you're buying it from is not the owner now. You are, and he carried 10%. And Aunt May that gave you $5,000 is not the owner. You are, and you come out of pocket with nothing. As long as it cash flows on the day that you buy it, that's still a really good deal. It's all 100% counterparty risk, and you have no monetary risk. So, daisy chaining. You buy the first property, you fix it up, you rent it out, and maybe you borrow from that first property to buy the second one. You fix it up. Maybe you're buying these distressed properties, it needs a little TLC, put a little lipstick on the pig, fix the second one up. Then, after you fix the second one up, you borrow from it to buy the third one. You fix it up, borrow from it to buy the fourth. I've known people that's done that, got up to 12 properties, sold those 12 properties, buy a 20 unit. It's very possible these things are done. Now, there are a lot of things you can do nowadays by watching social media. YouTube, so many social medias that you can go on, and so many people, thousands of people out there try to teach the very thing that I'm trying to do. Teach people how to get out of the rat race, how to build wealth, how to buy houses. And they may talk to you about owner finance. They may talk to you about daisy chaining. They may talk to you about house hacking or BRRRR method. They may talk to you about sub 2. There's a lot of people that talk about different things on how to buy real estate. A lot of things you can do nowadays on your smartphone to build wealth. They will teach you. Now, if you will just buy, if you want to build wealth, if you will buy that first property, it'll break the ice and it'll make it very possible that you'll see how that you can buy more and more. And as you buy more and more, get creative, do some owner finance, do land contracts, a lot of different things, you will become very good and you will become Redneck Rich. See you on the next video.